I'm remixing the Skype ringtone for you. I'm doing it in the style of a 1950s crooner. Dooby dooby doo, zoo doo doo, dooby dooby doo, zoo doo doo, baby. That's right. It's good. Ah, I thought it was good. Damn.
I'm recording.
I was already recording. I'm glad you're
you
recording
were.
now.
I didn't know you'd come in firing with recording ready to go.
Yeah, I was ready to go. I wanted to record. That was my bit that I was going to open up the podcast with.
I'm really glad I wasn't recording then.
Let's bury the bit. It's buried.
That was
no one will know what happened there. Why are you singing now?
Back.
I was singing. You're
singing on the last episode.
You're saying no to my singing bit.
Yes.
And then you're doing a singing bit?
My bit started not last episode because you had the little update episode, which was great, by the way.
Yeah.
But that was the episode, the real episode I was on. I started singing.
But I'm backpacking on your bit, man.
But I'm singing already.
Wow,
and it's great. Everybody loves it. We're getting so many comments being like, "Odie, sing more." It's great.
At least
I bet
9
Byron likes
of
my
them,
singing.
and they're all from a relative of yours. I couldn't think of one specifically.
Not in my family. Listen to this. I can tell you that right
now.
Yeah.
Oh well, whatever.
I don't care. They're lost. We're incredibly funny.
We are incredibly funny.
I read something interesting today that I found very funny.
Okay, hit me.
So apparently, they found the blood of Jesus Christ.
Who's they?
You know.
Who's they? Just tell me.
Hey.
You
I don't know.
You read it.
Some research group. Yeah, it's clearly not real.
Oh, okay.
So the article didn't really say who it was. These people,
just they,
basically these researchers, these people, they were just like, yeah, we found the blood of Jesus and we tested it. And there's 23 chromosomes, and it turns out through DNA testing that the blood's father wasn't human.
Oh, stop!
So, yeah.
You read?
Yeah. So
what clickbait drew you to this piece of information? That's what I want to know.
I don't believe it. Don't
and why did you click on it?
Must be true. Because it's ridiculous.
Did you Google blood of Jesus Christ?
They were claiming.
You Googled blood of Jesus Christ.
How to get the blood of Jesus out of my clothes.
You were just you were just researching. You're like, you spilled wine on yourself, and you're like, how to get blood of Jesus out of my clothes, and you were like, researchers.
It's the same way when I say how to cook Jesus' body when I'm making bread. It's the same thing, Kevin.
I have a love-hate religion. Whatever. It's not a deep cut. It's a deep bread slice. It's a deep bread.
It's a deep bread stick.
Dude, when you make bread out of Jesus' body, it rises so much.
It's horrible, but I love it.
All right, let's start there. That's good. That's good.
That was a legit thing I read. Like, legitimately, though. It was real.
I don't know why you wasted your time reading that. Yeah.
Because I wanted to tell you about it. That's why. I waste my time to bring it to this.
Yes. Let's clap.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Yes.
That was delayed on my
part. Perfect. Whatever. Who cares? No, what are you talking? It was perfect. We did it.
Always perfect.
Again, flawless.
Always.
I have a love-hate relationship with the point that we're at with the exchange of information.
Like between me and you?
No, just as a species.
Yeah.
I love that someone can take time out of their day to write an article about the blood of Jesus Christ being found, and it's like father not being human. Like that to me, creative writing being spread Amazing. Love it. I love that it can be spread instantly. What I don't love is that we're also at a point with the exchange of data and information that there's enough people who would believe that, i.e. flat earthers, right? Dude,
I agree.
The
Earth is flat.
A gentleman recently attempted to talk to me about the flat earth hypothesis, and I found out later he was joking, right? Like, he was just kind of like going into the conspiracy theory thing, like trying to get me. No, he was just trying to get me worked up, but not related to that discussion. But jumping in with his own little tidbit was I would say like a almost post-teen, probably like an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old who I've never met before, who just sauntered into the conversation saying, and I quote, "I don't think gravity exists." And I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. I know that's what, I just walked away. Like, I couldn't.
Kevin has left the conversation.
Like, the button pushing, I was like kind of like digging into it. I was like, why do you think the earth is flat? We've disproved it. I was like kind of having like a little bit of fun with it. But when someone who I've never met walks up and just drops the "I don't think gravity exists," I'm like, I don't have the time or effort to explain to you, a human being who probably smoked more weed than he did read a book in school. Like, how, and maybe it was like, I don't want to hate on the weed smokers out there. Maybe it was crack. Who knows? Maybe, right?
Let's go from weed to crack.
Could have been, maybe he just was skipping class in general and spanking it all day. Who knows? But like, whatever.
Whatever. Everything's a drug.
Yeah, everything's a drug. That's the title of this episode. Everything's a drug.
Everything's a drug.
Everything's a drug. It's like that's our cold open, instead of "Everything's a Drum" from Auntie Donna, we're doing "Everything's a Drug." Everything's a drug.
I love Auntie Donna. That's
just great. Eating tissues, like everything's a drug.
Oh shit!
You die immediately. I can only assume if you think everything's a drug, you die quickly. Like, that is, there are so many things that can kill you that are like within arm's reach. Just Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Unpop Podcast. I am hilariously yours, Kevin Miner, the captain of this ship, soy el capitan, he, him, el hombre. With me as always is...
I'm back, Odie Matthews, the chef, cooking up content, they, them. I wasn't here last week, but good thing Kevin was.
I handled it. You're technically not here this week because we're doing it differently. No,
I'm here right now.
You are, but you're not, because we're going to be checking in with you in the future. We're doing a Christopher Nolan Tenet situation here, man.
I love that movie.
Yeah, well, great. You're in it. Congrats. Good. You're living it.
I want to be Robert Pattinson.
You're living the Tenet. That's the lifestyle that you're living now. You're 100% in Tenet.
Can't wait to see how this goes for future me.
Oh, it's going to be great, man. He's going to save the world, I guess. I don't know. We'll check in with him. But all silliness aside, okay, so explain one more time for people listening what you're doing this weekend. Yeah.
Okay. So for those of you that don't know, I have a YouTube channel. And last week, at the time of recording, I did a video where I tried to basically fit like my entire trip into the tiniest bag imaginable to not have to pay for a bag on Frontier.
And you did it.
The purpose of that was, and I did. It was very stressful, and a lot of people in front of me were forced to pay for bags that were smaller than mine. So the fact that I got away with it just shows the system is broken.
It's flawed.
But Frontier Airlines, for overseas listeners, it's kind of like Ryanair here in America. Spirit and Frontier are like the two, like number one and number two of going to the bathroom on an airline. And so Frontier has been in some hot water with lawsuits because they are charging people who claim that their bags were smaller than, the charged bag dimensions or whatever you want to call it. But on top of that, the reason why they're getting charged is because Frontier, allegedly, has an incentive program where if their gate agents can get people to pay for the carry-on, they get a kickback because Frontier gets all their money by you paying for your seat, paying for your bags, and so forth, right? So that was the precursor. I really wanted to do something crazy and insane. So I thought, how fun would it be over the course of less than 48 hours to take 8 flights back to back, with the longest time in between flights being about 5 hours? So basically, starting this Saturday morning, which is tomorrow at the time of recording, at 6 a.m., all the way to basically Monday morning at 4 a.m., I'm going to be living, eating, sleeping, and dying in airports as far west as San Francisco and as far east as Orlando, Florida.
I think that's about as close together as we can allow the words fun and dying to be without reporting you to someone.
Yes. Yes.
I don't
It's
know
a
why
healthy
you
mix.
think this is fun. I think the fun part
It
will
is
be
fun.
looking back on it, not doing it. I
I don't
think
know.
you're a
I'm a
madman.
pretty. I love traveling though, and I
I
love
think you might
airports.
lose your mind on this
I
trip.
think
It
maybe.
might
Who
alter
knows?
you irrevocably.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so.
I respect what you're doing. I love that you're taking the content that you're creating in this direction, because I think
Yeah.
it's like, bag reviews are great, but I'll be the first one to say, like, they're 100% not for me unless I'm
Yeah.
like in the moment that I'm looking for a bag, right? Like, if
Yeah.
if I wasn't looking for a bag, I probably, and if I wasn't your friend, I probably wouldn't watch any bag reviews, right? Like,
Yeah.
so
Fair. 100%.
yeah, so like, it's a limited realm. But now that you're taking that and applying more of a right-brained creative approach of like how you're presenting some of the bag content that you're making, like, because now it's more than just the bag. It's you traveling, it's
Yeah.
you going through the experiences that someone would then go through with said bag. And I know that, like, somebody listening to that is probably like, that's not that much more, but it is. It's a lot. There's a lot that goes into that. And I think that there's a lot
Well, because you think about
there's
it.
a lot to be taken away from that. And who knows, like, this might be like the thing that maybe like it changes the way Frontier looks at their bags because enough people see it and share it or whatever. Like, this is the kind of thing that happens where then a company goes, all right, all right, all right, we'll be a little more lax, and then people are like, yay, Odie Matthews, like, the possibilities there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Well,
it's 100% gonna happen, but
I'm
I'm
not.
gonna try to help it.
So the thing is, it's funny because like I've pitched this to people and people are like, "Oh, that's not that crazy. Taking 8 flights back to back isn't that crazy." Like I even put it up on Instagram and I got more, "No, that's not really that crazy." I don't think people truly understand the average flight experience, right? And this is
Yeah.
coming from somebody who's traveled full time for the last like 5 years,
Yeah.
basically. The average flight experience is you maybe have one-way flights that, or you might have a non-stop flight,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say most people that travel end up having a layover, right?
Yeah.
The average in America,
Yeah.
the average flying layover combined travel time, if you have a layover, is around 8 hours, depending on where you're flying to.
Yeah.
If you think about that, you take one flight, you get off of it, you go to the gate, you take your second flight, and then you're not getting back on a flight until your trip is over days later.
Yeah.
I am doing essentially that 4 times in a row.
Yeah. I think the same people who are so quick to go, that's actually not that crazy. They're the same people that, like, if you told them, all right, well, your flight got messed up, so we're going to have you on 2 different connecting
Mm-hmm.
flights, they would lose their
Their
mind,
shit.
right?
Yep.
They would be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you kidding me? Like, why did I just beat myself out? I don't know why.
I don't know. I saw that.
but
And I was
like,
like, I did the same thing. I just did the same thing. I was like, oh yeah, we can't curse.
like,
The fuck?
I think you know why I think I did it? Because I had already constructed a fictional person at like a gate who was presenting this information to me in my head, and I didn't want to be rude to them. The fictional person I had made.
Yeah, it's fair.
Anyway,
Well, I literally just talked to you in the airport when I was in Orlando, and I got to the
Yeah.
airport at 3 p.m. and my flight was delayed. I was at the airport. I was sitting in the airport waiting for my flight to leave for almost 9 hours.
I
And
remember.
I was having a vibing. I was vibing. I was on my
Yeah,
computer.
that's
I was
the
talking
worst.
to you. I was listening to music. I was walking around the airport. I was getting food, and everybody at the gate was. I could hear them. They were complaining and whining and like, "This is. I have a connecting flight." And it's like, cool, man, but like also at the same time, like I'm weird. I know I'm in the minority here. I love sitting in the airport waiting for my flight. I love getting on a flight and looking out the window or taking a nap or watching like
Yeah.
there is something for me that I love. I love going through TSA security. I love the airport experience. I love getting on an airplane. I love
Uh-huh.
flying. I love all of it. So I
Yeah.
really truly believe that I'm going to enjoy every minute of this trip until maybe like the last two flights. I think the last two flights I might just start feel it. But
Mm.
we'll find out as we check in with future me if that's true
Yeah.
or not.
I'm a walking travel hazard for people who are either introverted or have social anxiety because I will talk to everyone. Like
I do the same thing.
at
Same
the
thing.
airport, on the plane, doesn't matter. If someone's even
Oh.
like looking at something that I'm relatively interested in, just to pass the time, I'll be like, "What do you think about that?" Like, you know.
I gotta tell you this story. All right, I gotta
What's
tell
up?
this story.
Yeah,
This
hit
is
me.
so fun to me because this is why I'm such an extrovert. So I'm flying from Denver to Orlando.
Okay.
It's Frontier. It's nonstop, right?
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
I'm at Denver Airport and we have a coffee place called Caribou Coffee. I love it. So I'm in line.
Yeah, no
There's a
care.
dude behind me,
Okay.
and I don't remember how we started. We started talking about something, just a brief conversation, right? Like maybe like a minute or two. I get my
Yeah.
coffee. I go to the gate. Oh my God! Same dude is in line in front of me to get on the same flight on Frontier.
Oh
He's
hell yeah.
also the guy that got pulled to charge for his bag. So we start talking in the
Ah,
tunnel,
damn.
and we're like, "Oh yeah, this is bullshit. Like Frontier does this all the time." I told him about the video idea. He was like, "Oh, that's a cool idea." We talked for a minute. I got on the plane. Didn't think anything of it. Guess who's on my flight sitting next to me on the way home from Orlando?
D. Snyder from Twisted Sister.
How did you know? It was the same dude.
Oh.
Same dude.
D.
Literally
Snyder.
the same guy.
D. Snyder.
Yeah, D. Snyder. It was the same guy. D. Snyder.
I can't believe you met D. Snyder 3 times in one trip.
Either. But like, what are the chances? What are the odds of that? Right? Like,
Yeah.
dude, fucking crazy. Love that.
I'm just laughing because now I'm picturing D. Snyder's hair.
Twisted
He's just
Sister.
got that huge hair. I mean, sometimes it's got to be so big that he's got to pay for 2 seats, right? That's got to be
Is
the case.
Twisted Sister, we're not gonna take it, or are they?
Yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
Twisted
Did
Sister.
they?
Yeah.
Who sings the song? I Want to Rock.
I think also Twisted Sister.
I want. Okay, so fun story about that. Then I thought it was Twisted Sister, but I didn't want to tell this story. You know SpongeBob?
Okay. Yeah.
So the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, which came out in 2005, which
Yeah.
I saw in theaters,
Yeah.
has a cover of that song "I Want to Rock," but it's Goofy Goober.
Yeah.
They contacted Dan Schneider
D.
D.
Schneider.
from
D. Snyder.
from Twisted Sister and was like, "Hey, we really like your song. We want to turn into the Goofy Goober song. Can we do that?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Absolutely."
Yeah, of course. Why not?
I love that.
Yeah, it's the best. I I was just like remembering the last time I traveled and like I literally like all I did was make friends, and it's really fun because I work in a realm where like one of the optimal characteristics to have is being able to converse with people and make conversation, like even just small conversation, right? So like all the people, because the last like big trip that I took was to regional with some of the people from my job, and like all the people that I work with, they're like, you just do that all the time, and I'm like, yeah, you should too. Like that's your like 100%. Just be friends with people. That's like that's part of your job. Let's check in with future Odie Matthews real quick and see where they are at
They're up to.
in their travels.
Currently 2 flights in, and so far I feel amazing. Not much to say because as of right now I have taken 2 flights, which is, as I established, pretty normal for the average traveler. So now I just need to do that 3 more times. And I also noticed that I think it's really funny that all of the jet fuel on the runway has like the little cross through like the cigarette emblem, which makes me wonder if back in the day people used to smoke on the tarmac near jet fuel. Because if so, that raises even more questions. But so far, future me is doing great. So past me, I hope you're having fun. Because right now, I'm at San Francisco Airport about to have a burger and a beer. And honestly, I feel great. I already said that, but I'm going to say it one more time. I feel great. So with that being said, I'm going to go have a burger and a beer. Have fun.
Well, it seems that they've started binging Star Wars from episode 0. I didn't even know there was an episode 0. They just started whipping things out.
In the future.
That's great.
It comes out tomorrow. That's why it comes out in the future.
Future Odie's already losing their mind. It's great. I'm so glad that we're doing this little bit where we're checking with Future Odie. It's gonna be great.
Just making shit up.
Yeah, absolutely. So this past week, you and I were talking a lot. And this will be a good through point, I think, in this show, because then we can break up the conversation a little bit. You and I talked a lot. There was like, you know what's really funny is I've heard nothing about it this week, but there was like a good cultural like week or two for Barbie, which says a lot about trends. I know, but it says a lot about trends in general and just like how we consume media as like a global consumer market now, that like for 2 weeks that was like the only thing people talked about, and everybody showed up to the theater dressed in pink, and like some people saw it even 4 times, and like there was so much discourse back and forth, like positive and negative, and like all of the takes and everything, and then like we've already moved on. Like as a culture, we're just like, yep, we did it, you know.
Well, yeah, that's because the corporations are taking the wrong success message from Barbie. Instead of being like, oh, this is a movie that like has a really good message for a certain demographic of people that they can really relate to, they're going, what other toys can we make into movies? Like they're literally workshopping a Hot Wheels movie that is produced by J.J. Abrams right now.
Yeah. Well, I
No.
think the other thing, like in my mind, is like this is a side effect of what I would call, you know how like there's fast food. Like, yeah, well, like, so like, you know, you can go, I would call it like drive-through consumption. Like that's what this is. Like everything is being prepared for us. It's just presented. We have a little bit of discourse about it, you know, like think back, like even the summer, like very similar to the Barbie movie, like the Grimace Shake. You heard everything about it for 2 weeks and now it's gone, right? Like that's just how everything is now. Like the law of exponential returns is applying to the social experience in a very peculiar way. I'm not going to weigh in on whether it's bad or good. I think everything has like its own, you know, layers of good and bad to it. I think one of the benefits of it is like, you know, there was all this like crazy outrage cry out from the incel crowd about the Barbie movie. And, you know, I would even say alt-right people just had an issue with it in general because it was inclusive at all. And then like, but here we are 2 weeks later, haven't heard shit about it, you know, which is, that part's nice. Right. But then also like, if we were paying more attention to it, there might be a little more discourse, and each side might learn, or rather, everybody might have a little more time to, I would say, chew and digest and like process on their own. You know, like if it were I'm trying to craft an analogy with food, and it's just not working. But like, ultimately,
it's my department.
But
I'm the chef.
Yes, you're the chef. You're the Jeff, but there's Jeff, but there's, you know, like there's like a piece of, I think, interaction that is slowly kind of like it's disappearing, in that like we want to know what we want to know about something very quickly and then move on from it, right? You know, like it's like controversy. All right, cool. Let's move on to the next controversy. And then, or rather, like really big cultural moment. Okay, what's the next really big cultural moment that we can experience together? It's a side effect of everything kind of being served up to us. Whereas, like, if you remember when we had less, I would say less access to immediate interaction. We were a little bit better at impulse control. I would say overall, like as a global culture, we were a little bit better at impulse control, in that, like, you know, Titanic came out and it was in theaters for like months, right? Like it was one of the longest.
For a year.
It was one of the longest
Back in
runs ever, and
27.
people just kept going back and watching it. And I think part of the reason, and this is where I'm going with this, is like there's too many things to watch. There's too many things to be talking about.
I want to talk
There's
about that.
too much being done literally all the time. You know, I mean, what's the metric? On average, 1.5 billion hours of YouTube are consumed a day by humans, like collectively. Like obviously there's only 24 hours in it, but you know, just based on the mere minutes that people watch, and that's just YouTube, right? That's just one singular media platform where people are consuming more than what has existed in all of human history, right? Human history in a day of information, whether it be, you know, educational or absolute slop, you know, sludge content, or somewhere in the middle, just like entertaining and something that you're watching on your break, or like a TV show or whatever, you know, someone reacting to something, you know, and it's very, it's just like, it's almost surreal how quickly that all happens. Like you almost don't have enough time to slow yourself down to react to it.
Well, here's where I'm at with this stuff, and it's really frustrating. We're in an era right now where there's so much to dissect in what you just said, and so many opinions that I have. But the first one that I want to talk about is all this requel, prequel, sequel, reboot nonsense that keeps happening. Because now, every show that ever came out, ever pretty much, is getting some kind of like new season coming back. Like, there was a show on Nickelodeon called like Zoe 101 that I remember very vaguely my older sister watching, and and it wasn't even that good. They did a movie, a Zoe 102 movie. Like, nobody asked for that. The iCarly reboot, like Ned's Declassified's trying to come back, and then on top of that, all of these are just all shows up top of my head. There's so many shows, like these are just the Nickelodeon Disney Channel ones that come to mind. But on top of that, you have all of these people that used to be on these shows that now are doing podcasts. There is a podcast for every show that has ever existed, and none of the main characters are on it. And here's just a couple examples that I know of off the top of my head. There's the Wizards of Waverly Place podcast, where the best friend and the dad host it. There's there's an Office podcast where I know Steve Carell and Jim Krasinski. It's like who is it that does the there's two people that do the Office one. There's also the oh my god, I just thought of it. The one for Psych, a show that I love. It's not even the two main characters. It's Maggie Lawson and I forget who the other person is. Point being, doesn't matter. Tons of examples is that I am so sick of every time a show ends, it has to be left open that it can come back down the road. And a great example of a show that I think really was like, nope, we're done. We're over. Sopranos, right? Like, that was an open ending to an extent, but the creator was like, fuck no, I'm not doing any more of that. That story is done, dude. And like, the fact that every show that ends, like, we were just talking the other night, we were like, we're gonna try to find a new show to watch, because we're trying to find a new show to watch in the evenings. And I was like, well, I don't want to watch anything that's on Netflix, because they do a season and then it gets canceled. You know, and every show these days now, it feels like it has to be left open to come back, or it's just not gonna come back. And I hate that both of those are like things that we've come across. But then on what you're saying with like the movies, the biggest thing that I think is gonna happen right now is, and we're already seeing it with the SAG-AFTRA strike. All of these movies are starting to get pushed. Like Dune 2 might get pushed to the end of next year. The more movies they push into next year, we're going to have this same problem we had this year, where every weekend there's a summer blockbuster all year long. And like, I have an AMC movie pass where I pay like $20 a month and I can see 3 movies a week, and I still don't go see every movie that comes out. Like, what does that tell you? There's too much. And and the problem is most of it is fucking mid or bad. And that's what sucks. It's like none of a lot of it is even good.
Mid is such an applicable word,
right?
For like, it's so funny that's like what an apt expression to exist in the cultural zeitgeist at the moment, where like it could so accurately describe so many things. Like, right? just like so many general experiences. And I feel like that's why people move on so quickly, is because we're so used to like, there's almost like this white noise of relatively elevated experience that we're constantly going through because we have so much information in our hands and at our fingertips all the time. Now, of course, I would like to unpack that we're doing this on a podcast and you, a YouTube channel hoster, are talking about it, so like I feel like we should be self-aware, right? And there is a funny layer to that. Going with what you were talking about, like these things getting pushed out, I see the pros and cons. I see, okay, cool, well that gives some things a little bit more time to develop. One of the cons is that like what comes in the interim, because there's enough of a baseline population of simple consumers of media, right? And I do mean simple. I don't mean simple in thought. I don't mean like stupid. I mean simple in that like they just consume. That's it. They need a show. They always have a new show. There are, shows trend. They go viral or whatever it is. And there's a baseline audience that consumes all of that, i.e. Tiger King, right? Here's what I'm going to say about that. Okay. That was a garbage low point cultural moment. No, it really was. I mean, and I know we were all locked up inside, but instead of like reaching for like some high class entertainment that we hadn't, gone into before, and other people discovering different things, Netflix just went, Tiger King, here you go, fucking, you're there you go. It's for all of you. Yeah. But because there's so many of those people, if you seek power, seek nobodies, right? Seek the lowest like common, or seek the common denominator, right? That becomes the loudest crowd. And so what happens is we've conditioned ourselves in late capitalism. I'm going to address it as that, and I don't care what the fuck I get labeled as for calling it late capitalism. That's where we are. We're in late capitalism, baby.
I would agree.
In late capitalism, that crowd has so much sway, and we've conditioned ourselves so much to point at it and go, well, you gotta make money, and that's just how that works, and I accept that, instead of analyzing it and asking questions and being a little bit critical and going, maybe that's not good for us.
Yeah, 100%.
In this realm of late capitalism and relative absurdity, as I would say, as like a global consumer culture, we've kind of reached this point where like the mid is so allowed. And it's almost worshipped in the form that like there's a demographic that will defend the fact that it had any level of success, And it's like, well, okay, we do have to filter, draw lines, be careful with our consumption of things. I actually, going back to like, one thing that I've talked about before, I think binge watching is like one of the worst things that you can do. Because what you're doing is you're programming your psyche, because this is all we have, right? We have limited willpower control over what we intend. Well, I say limited, but we have limited willpower control over what we intentionally do, and then everything else that we're doing becomes behavioral beyond that. However much willpower we exercise on the things that we're consuming and what we're doing, the excuses that we're making, what we allow,
Yeah.
I know I'm getting a little too deep right now.
No.
Okay, you gotta
hold that thought, because I'm on there with you. I've tied some weights to my ankles. I'm coming down to meet you.
Okay.
Because if I'm being honest, you made me just think. I know we usually do a segment called "What's Your Jam," right?
Yeah.
I want to talk real quick. I want to introduce a new segment called "This Is Not a Jam."
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. So, yeah, I like this.
Yeah, I'm twisting it up. So
what's not the jam?
So I do enjoy binge watching, and I'm guilty of it, especially when it comes specifically for me. I like to do it with anime. I really like to binge watch anime, because otherwise I'll end up watching the first season of an anime like I just did, and then it not be done, and I want to know what happened, so I just read the manga, and then I never watch the anime again, which is still, I mean, hey, whatever. I'm still getting the story, right?
Yeah. Okay, keep going.
But I still, what I mean? Like, it's not the same, but it's kind of the same. But, so Apple TV, which we have talked highly of, because we both are fans. You've watched some shows.
Yes.
We are going to start watching The Silo, which I'm super excited for. I haven't started it yet, but I'm stoked. But last night, I had 3 hours to kill, and I was like, you know what? The show Invasion looks so good, right? Like the trailer, it's an alien invasion, it's a mystery. That was single-handedly the biggest waste of 3 hours that I have had in a very long time. I watched 3 episodes, and I am not joking. The plot moves forward 0.
Wow.
You don't meet the aliens. Wow. You don't see the invasion. All you do is switch between 8 different sets of characters, maybe like 6 different sets of characters. And all you see them do is character develop. They hear them talk and interact. Like there's literally a whole scene where it's just 2 kids on a bus listening to old Green Day talking about music. Nothing for the plot, right? And what they're doing is what the writer is doing. It's Simon Kinberg, who is famous for ruining the X-Men franchise with Dark Phoenix. And not Days of Future Past, but Apocalypse, right? Simon Kinberg,
the worst X-Men films,
right? So Simon Kinberg has been a very big producer, director, and writer over at Fox, specifically with the X-Men movies. So the fact that he got this TV show, I was like, oh, like maybe it's good. It's Apple TV. The writers of the show are writing these characters and just basically just dropping all of this exposition and character development and being like, here it all is, here's a conversation, here it all is, here's what these characters are, expecting you to feel something for them so that when the plot does eventually pick up, which I'm assuming it does, then when something happens to these characters, you're like, oh, but like 3 episodes ago they said this. But like, I don't know about you, but when I'm watching a show, especially when they're 55-minute episodes and there's only 6 to 8 episodes a season, if I am halfway through that season and a show about aliens invading Earth haven't even invaded Earth yet, and you're too busy trying to develop your characters to make them likable, you've already lost. Your premise is already gone. Because what I really love in movies, and a great movie example, right, is Meg 2: The Trench. The characters develop as the sharks attack. And I think you really get a sense of who those characters are when they're put in those situations. So I would like to see the same thing happen just across the board. Like, let the characters develop. You're shaking your head. I know. I'm kidding. Meg 2 is a bad example. I just wanted to put that out there. My goal is to mention that movie every episode.
I thought you were serious, and I was like, I don't even know how to address
Here's a good example, right? And I know that this might not be the best because there is a source material.
Okay.
But you know what? Actually, Star Wars, right? Take the first Star Wars, for example. You are thrown right into the world of Star Wars. You don't have an hour with Luke Skywalker figuring out who he is. You just go, here's the characters. And then as they develop, you find out that Luke is, he's like naive to the world because he's lived on Tatooine. You find out that Obi-Wan is really wise and fought in this war that you hear about. Han Solo's kind of a smuggler. He's kind of a douche, but maybe he's those things develop as the plot moves forward with the characters. And I really hate that this day and age, shows like Invasion and just movies in general that are mid have this tendency to try to make everything really likable because I feel like the plot isn't. And it's very frustrating when you get invested in something and then all of a sudden it just fizzles because there's just nothing going on.
Yeah, it's switching
That's
from
not my jam.
It's switching from show don't tell to tell don't show.
I hate that.
Let's check in with future Odie again.
Okay, it's future Odie again because I gotta talk about this. And I already said this in my video, so it's gonna be in there, but I want to say it on the pod too. Not enough people talk about how airport food is exactly like movie theater food. It is mid-tier, overpriced food that at best tastes like it came from like an upscale fast food restaurant. The fact that I just spent $30 on a burger and garlic fries, which are soggy because they're just oil and garlic that like regular fries are just doused in, and then a bottle of root beer, that's what it's called, root beer, cost me almost $36. For comparison, last night my partner and I, Goose, we went out to get poke bowls and it wasn't even this price. I got upscale poke for less than a mid-tier burger at an airport in San Francisco. And I keep talking about this for a really long time because it also drives me crazy that when you go to like the movie theater, specifically AMC, because I'm an AMC StubHub mass, is that like their chicken tenders are just like average chicken tenders. They just drop in a deep fryer. Same with pretzel bites. Like none of it, it's all frozen food that costs in the double fucking digits. And I'm burping because this root beer is hitting me. But yeah, it's another thought from future Odie. I'm still in the same layover, by the way. Been a very interesting ride. I also got a bloody nose. That was weird. Wasn't expecting that. But anyways, yeah, what an adventure we're already at. And I didn't mention this in my last update, but you can just combine these together, Kevin. I'm sure you will. I think it's really funny that part of the trip, I was going to see like how many delays I got. And before I even left my home airport, I got a delay. Like right off the gate, literally at the gate, right off the rip, got a delay. So I'm so excited. I'm 2 out of 8 flights down, and I'm at 90% energy. So like, let's see what happens.
Oh my God, I can't believe he ran into Dee Snider.
He?
Sorry, they. I can't believe Dee Snider, he ran into them. He ran into them. Sorry. I'm just trying to like go off the cuff with the Dee Snider bit.
Dee Snider bit. I'm gonna put Twisted Sister on my
Twisted Metal. I can't believe they ran into Anthony Mackie and Dee Snider.
I was gonna say that. Anthony Mackie from Twisted Metal. And the voice of Will
Oh my
Arnett.
God. At an airport bar.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm seriously though, I am concerned for them. That's a lot of flights to take back to back. So I'm just wishing them the best. Loki, get away from my. Hold on, I have a cat that's trying to tangle himself in these cords. Hi. Okay. No. But yeah, the shift away from show don't tell to tell don't show. I think it's like a marker of how things are developing from a cultural standpoint. Like people like recently bigger production companies have started shopping around for what they call second screen viewing material, where the TV is the second screen. And we're all like guilty of this, right? Like you turn something on, you get on your phone, you're doing something on your phone, you're engaged in that, but then you're looking at the TV every once in a while, right? You're multitasking. Now, like psychologically, scientifically, factually, objectively, you cannot actually pay attention to two things at once. What you're doing is you're switching your attention back and forth between the two things. And that's why so many people, when you ask them, like, they're like, oh, I watched that show a few months ago. And you're like, what was it about? And they're like, I don't know. It's because you're not giving it your full attention. And so now, like, companies that are trying to just get you to have things on, right? Like, their job is to make things that you watch or don't watch. Just things you have on at this point, you know? And for a lot of people, that's just like, that's exactly what it is. You know, like reality TV is second screen viewing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, and like some of the more base level stuff, like maybe that show Invasion is a second screen viewing thing. I'm not 100% on that, but maybe
a lot of it's in subtitles. Though,
maybe that's what it was.
Other countries.
Oh, that's weird.
Like
I don't know.
Yeah, like because I put my phone up to look at the cast for a minute and I had to rewind because the Japanese characters were talking. But again, I didn't miss anything.
Yeah,
I didn't miss anything because there was nothing going on.
You know, like I'm gonna sound old when I say this. Like I'm just gonna sound old.
Okay.
But like, yeah, and it is okay. Get away from the mic cords, man. Get out of there. If you're more intentional with how much you consume, right? It becomes easier to discern what's good and worth time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
you
if you're
about this a lot.
Yeah, and what I mean is it comes down to intention, time, and material, right? So like you have to be intentional. You have to have a set amount of time for it. You can't just like turn something on and then like just let it run, you know? And like I said, I'm guilty of doing this. The only reason I can accurately describe this is I have done it, right? So like now, and I'll be like, here's a good example. I can't binge watch. I think I finally like, you know, for a long time I could. I had the ability to watch like, I would say even watching 3 episodes that are 40 minutes of something is technically binge watching, right?
That's
watching a long movie doesn't count in my mind because the movie is one singular art piece.
It's a complete story.
Yeah, and it's not like it's
Usually.
like you're not watching it twice. You're not what like you're tying together like
unless it's the Meg 2.
Seeing Oppenheimer
twice.
is not binge watching. Watching Braveheart is not binge watching. Like those movies are
watching
long.
all the Marvel movies back to back
is binge watching. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So you can't just like when you do that, you lower, without thinking about it, without being intentional, you lower your mind's own expectation for what's going to entertain it, right? And so one thing that I've started doing, I have 2 shows that I'm watching right now, and then I will probably catch Jujutsu Kaisen sometime within the next 2 weeks and be caught up, right?
Because
then whatever. So then I'm caught up. But
you're good.
I would have gone and looked for it within the next couple weeks, right? I would have been like, okay, where's Jujutsu Kaisen? But like, I'm watching One Piece, right? And I'm watching Foundation. Okay, I cannot do more than 2 episodes of Foundation, which is the length of an action movie, really. Like it's about an hour. Yeah. It's about an hour and 20. Well, it's like 40 to 45 minutes, depending on the episode, right? Which I that's one thing that I do really enjoy. I like that Apple TV, like some episodes are like 30 minutes and some episodes are like 45 and some are 50, and like they're just like whatever actually works for it. I think they're giving people who are like writing and directing a little bit more freedom to like say this is this episode rather than like being like it has to be this much,
I agree with that.
I think that the quality is showing there. But so with Foundation, right, I'm very intentionally only watching like 2 episodes of that. With One Piece, there's over 1,000 episodes that exist, right? So what I'm doing with One Piece instead is I'm turning it on in the background. Now, I'm not doing second screen viewing because what I'm doing is I'm doing laundry, I'm doing the dishes, but I'm listening to it, right? So it's almost like there's an audio experience that's happening. I've switched the way that I'm consuming it, and I've been very intentional with it because I want to consume a larger amount of it, but I don't want to be sitting sedentary for a long period of time consuming that. And I feel like that's a good thing to do. I obviously, even me, like I have a little self-criticism on that. I'm like, well, what's your inherent threshold of hypocrisy there? Like how much of a hypocrite are you being by binge consuming? Because I technically still am, right? And I'm going to be self-aware with that. But like, I do feel like having it on that way is the most efficient way to consume it, because it is very it's not like it's incredibly nuanced material. It's a shonen, it's like meant for young adult. Yeah, it's a young adult entertainment. So like it's not like anything's like going over my head when I'm not watching it. And you can tell based on like musical cues and like how people are speaking if something important's about to happen. And a lot of times I'll like pause and kind of like lean in and go, oh, what's going on with Sanji?
Well, and it's interesting that you say that you're doing it that way.
Yeah.
Because I've learned in the last year, I can't watch stuff in the background. Like I can't put a show on and have it play and not pay attention. If I'm going to watch something like with my eyes, I need to be 100% present and I need to 100% absorb it. Sometimes I'll admit I'm guilty of second screen watching, but mostly when I'm doing that, it's looking up cast, maybe looking up things about who made it.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes doom scrolling a little bit depending on what it is, if it's something I'm not interested in.
Yeah.
But I've learned that what I've been doing a lot lately, and it's still a version of binge consuming, it's just a different alley, is whenever I'm doing anything, whether it be editing or cooking, especially when I'm cooking, because I love to live in the kitchen. Like if I'm doing anything at all, I have headphones on and I'm either listening to a podcast, an informative podcast of some kind, or I'm listening to music. I've realized that I binge consume podcasts more than anything else in my life, probably, because like last night I sat down and I watched 3 episodes of Invasion back to back because I had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
I regret that because it was a waste of fucking time because it was a bad show.
Yeah.
But I was hoping I could watch 3 episodes and then kind of keep them spread out as I continue to go, because I'm the same way. If it's like a 40 to an hour long episode, I can maybe sit down and watch 2. You know what I mean? Like I'm good for like 2 hours of watching something, maybe 3 if it's a movie or, a special case scenario. But people that can put stuff on in the background and like somehow pay attention or know what's going on and also do other things.
Yeah.
Wild. Not me. Couldn't be me.
For the most part, I identify with that. The only reason I think I can turn One Piece on in the background is because I'm treating it like an audiobook almost. Like as I'm because it's one of those, being a shonen, like they're announcing what's happening. There's a lot of exposition in shonen, right? There's a lot of exposition in anime that are of that genre style. And sometimes the exposition catches my eye, and I'll sit down and watch like an episode here or there because I'll be like, oh, this is really interesting right now. Or like if I'm taking a small break. So that's just been my approach to that because I want to watch it. I'm enjoying when I am watching it. And yeah, there's like a part of me that's like, you should respect the animators a little more and like maybe just watch one episode at a time or whatever. But ultimately, I kind of also, I'm playing the game of catch up. So like like being completely honest, I kind of like, I feel like I'm catching enough of it to appreciate it, and I feel like I'm giving the respect to the art form that I need to. And I'll probably, honestly, at this point, I'll probably go through and read the manga at some point. But like I've gotten used to now listening to audiobooks, like having a show on in the background instead of having music. So like, and part of the reason I'm doing that is I'm trying to train myself to not do second screen viewing. And it's not like there's a lot of people who are speaking around the neuroscience realm right now who are talking about dopamine, and they're kind of demonizing it and treating it like a drug because everything's a drug. But like everything's a drug. But dopamine, I don't think, is the problem. I think it's how lenient we are with ourselves. Like going back to, like I'm really the word, like my word for the year this year, like when I first started, I was like, all right, the word of the year for you is ingenuity, because I kind of give myself a word of the year, right? So like I want to be ingenious. I want to use the concept of ingenuity. I want to be creative when solving problems, things like that. So ingenuity is a good thing for me, but really I'm kind of realizing like now it's shifted into discipline. I've really been studying that, like I've really been paying attention to like, okay, cool. Where could my discipline be better? And it's not that like, I don't think that dopamine should be demonized, because dopamine, the drug that produces like pain, pleasure, things like that, it's closely associated with high level experiences. I don't think that that's the problem, right? I think dopamine is actually, I think it's the solution to a behavioral problem that we've been creating within ourselves as a culture, right? Going back to what I was originally saying, like we give too much credence to things that have any moderate level of success. Like we equate the idea of success with good, the word good, right? It was successful, so it must be good. But not everything that's successful is good or good for you. And we've learned that lesson time and time again, and it's been reskinned in the form of data, informational exchange, and media consumption. Just because something is succeeding doesn't mean it's good, right? Like, and not only that, there's, going back to where you and I even first started this podcast, like there's people who get paid extra to make things appear as though they are successful. Going back to my original love-hate relationship with media and informational exchange, which I think everybody has to some degree or another, but like we only apply that bias when it's most convenient. We apply it most often when it's most convenient, but like we need to apply that sort of instead of making a bias toward media, right? Whenever we're quoting it, we're conveniently quoting it toward a form of media that we don't like. We should use that as a critical lens through which we view all consumption of media, transfer of information, whether it be video, audio, like whatever it is. We should be critical of those things. We should be more intentional. We should be more disciplined with how much of it we consume. I think as I'm going through this, just to round out this thought, as I'm going through this, I'm learning that the more intent I have in the things that I'm doing, the more disciplined I am about it, the more I'm able to task bracket, the better I feel overall on a day-to-day basis, and the easier it is for me to really enjoy things when I do consume them, like when I am being a consumer, you know?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to what we said off air, and I've said it multiple times.
Yeah.
I go through, and I think so do you to some extent, I go through periods where I'm either consuming or I'm creating.
Yeah.
I go through periods where I am guilty of sometimes binge watching. I'm guilty of, just consuming a lot of content, usually like new shows or movies or even doom scrolling. But then I also go through periods which is what I'm in now, where it's like I might sit down and watch an episode or two of something, but for the most part, I'm trying to figure out how I can create. And I think ultimately, because the nice thing about all of this, and like I didn't like Invasion, but there might be people out there that do like it. I don't think so. It's got pretty low ratings and somehow ended up getting a season 2. But hey, all of this stuff is subjective at the end of the day, which is why I love it so much. You know what I mean? When you really think about it, my love for Meg 2, The Trench, is subjective because probably objectively not a great movie, right? But that's the thing about what we consume. What we consume is completely subjective to what we want.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just kind of going back to what you said as well. I think it's if you can have a healthy balance or just a discipline, to be careful how much you consume and when and what you consume of, because to dive a tippy toe into another realm, if you consume too much of a certain thing that might not always be correct, like news or influencers or, things that are presented as facts that are actually false, and you consume a lot of that and you start believing it at face value without doing your own, due diligence of research or analyzing or critical thinking or anything of that nature, then the binge watching, overconsumption, and mid-tier content that we've been getting become very dangerous. So I think that discipline on how much you consume and when and what it is of all is, at least for me, it's extremely important. Extremely important. Like, I'm not going to turn on the Roseanne Barr stand-up special that's on, like, the Fox News streaming service where she makes fun of Gen Z and millennials for not knowing how to use a rotary phone. Like, I'm not going to watch that because it looks stupid. But
let's check in with future Odie one more time, and then we'll round this podcast out.
I like it.
Okay, checking in again. I am in Atlanta, and in the last 28 hours, all I've had to eat is one very mediocre burger in San Francisco. So in Atlanta, where there's a food court and tons of options, I decided to get McDonald's, and it tastes amazing. And that's how you know that you've been traveling for about 30 hours straight, when McDonald's tastes good. My cup also says, feeling bubbly, and I am feeling bubbly. But I also noticed there's something specifically that I really like when it comes to travel. And it's when I see people, whether they're a couple, like friends, romantic, whatever, when I see two people having a good time and being happy. It just, I don't know, something about that just really makes travel pretty fun, in my opinion. I got 3 flights left, feeling good, sleeping on all of them, eating McDonald's, watching Foundation per Kevin's recommendation, and yeah, here we go. Almost there. Not really.
Whoa! I can't believe future Odie became a flat earther. Wow.
I mean, that many plane rides you start to not see the curvature of the earth.
Who knew 2 days of plane travel was all it took?
Disappointing for future me.
To level out your perspective. Oh, God. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I had that loaded up for like a half an hour.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
I was trying to come up with little things to say long before we started this podcast, but here we are. Anyway.
Here we are.
Yeah, so, to round out what we're talking about today, and I think, it'll definitely change the way that I'm even bringing things to this podcast coming forward, but like I'm very intentionally consuming less media, right? And by media, I mean video, audio consumption. So like my days are much more dedicated to interaction and interactive materials and experiences now than it has been for a very long time. And I think, that's byproduct of having volunteered for things, having signed up for things and shown up for them, right? Like, so like, doing the Addams Family musical this fall, doing Brigadoon, which is coming up soon. We're already doing rehearsals for that. So I have days where like, I'm up at 4:50. I get my morning routine done. Coffee's made. Everything's taken care of. I get down to work. I work for about 8 hours. I drive up. I do a workout. I have like Brigadoon rehearsal. I go home and then it's goddamn bedtime, like that's a full day. That's 4:50 to like 9 p.m. and I'm tired. So like it's bedtime. Yeah. So there's a little bit of like time to like decompress, unpack, and then go to bed. I actually really do enjoy it because it's not every day. So that's good. It's only like 2 days a week. And then there's one other day where it's like really packed, but it's judo and martial arts, and so like that day is really packed. And all those days, what I've found, and the last thing that I'll kind of say on this is like, what I found is that when I tire myself out like that and I put the right perspective on it, like, wow, you did a lot of really good things for yourself. You were there for a lot of other people. You were able to like hold your responsibilities together and accomplish things and feel good about it at the end of the day. I just feel good about myself. I feel less exhausted in turn because the perspective shift on it is that I'm not tired because of all the things I had to do. I'm looking at it from the lens of gratitude. Like, wow, isn't it amazing that you can do all these things? Isn't it great that like you had the opportunity and were able to answer that, Like, I'm very lucky I'm very fortunate and grateful to have those things. So.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I say, what's your jam?
Oh, yeah.
I gotta get back to work.
Yeah,
that was mine. What's not my jam, but I do have actual jams.
Oh, actual jams? This
I
week,
have actual jams.
Emotional Oranges came out with a new album called Still Emo that's like absolutely killer. And Bad Bad Not Good did a few jazz remixes of Turnstile's Glow On album. There's like 3 tracks and they kind of just go back to back. I think they recorded it live. It's really, really good.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so like those two, I've been listening to those a lot. That's been really good.
You've been watching One Piece, I know that.
One Piece and Foundation are like the only 2 things I've been watching. Foundation is amazing, first off.
I'm going to start it.
Really, really good. Big time, like, love Foundation. And then One Piece is way better than I thought it would be. Like, I had a little bit of prejudice toward it because it seemed like a typical shonen. It's not, and a lot of the characters have more agency than you might expect. If you watch a lot, like if you're an anime watcher and you watch shonen, you know that sometimes female characters have less agency and less like character development and independence in a story. But on One Piece, they're very well treated. So I really what's the thing? It's called the Bechdel test. Do you know the Bechdel test?
Oh yeah.
One Piece passes the Bechdel test. Like,
really?
Women talk about things other than the men in the show. Yes, yeah.
Nice.
That's probably the thing that I like the most about it. It's very heartwarming. Everyone has dreams in the show, and it seems like anytime an important thing happens, it always kind of comes back around to like, these are their dreams, and it's the most important thing to them. And yeah, what a great like message to walk away from a show with,
Very nice.
Yeah, what do you got?
Well, I watched the first season of Hell's Paradise, which is an anime that's really good. Big fan of that.
Yeah, I heard
one.
that was good.
Yeah, it's like, honestly, it is Suicide Squad meets The Hunger Games meets Mysterious Island. It's insane. It's really good.
Okay.
Big fan of that. Tried Invasion, didn't like it. What else did we watch?
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be the only show.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I guess because I haven't been on, I didn't do anything last week. I finished The Bear.
Okay.
Phenomenal.
Yep. Same.
Really, really, really loved The Bear.
Loved that. Yep.
Such a good show.
Yep.
Yeah, that and Hell's Paradise are really the only shows I can say that I've actually like watched.
Yeah.
Music wise though,
mm-hmm.
I have been on a big Bad Omens kick. I've been listening to all of their albums. Basically, they have 3.
Yep.
Just kind of listening to that a little bit on repeat, just because I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then I'm getting the album, and then I listened to Road to Casablanca.
Okay.
Have you heard of this from Armani White?
Yes.
So for those of you that don't know that song, it's a very popular audio. It's like big top, black hair, Billie Eilish. It's like a very famous like music bit that people use in like Instagram reels and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he sings that song. Honestly, his whole album, really good. I was actually really impressed with it. I really enjoyed listening to it. Pretty solid.
That's good. I do have another one to throw in the mix. Hail the Sun came out with a new album. And they are, we're talking about like all of these things, like, everything being a drug and like just cultural shifts and things like that. Donnie, the singer from Hail the Sun, does a really, really, really good job of like, I think, compartmentalizing sociological and philosophical issues into songs that end up being kind of like catchy post-rock. Some people would classify it as emo because he's got like a higher voice and they scream and stuff, but like very post-hardcore, post-rock fun songs. And I just started listening to that this morning. I only got through a few songs, but it's really, really good. They always do a great job.
I'll have to check that out. The other, I forgot.
A big recommendation. You should listen to everything Hail the Sun puts out. It's so good.
I've heard of them before. I need to
they're
get into them. Have you heard of the movie The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent with Pedro Pascal and Nicolas Cage?
Yes, it came out last year. I didn't even get a chance to watch it, and someone posted like a scene from it not long ago, I think as like a reel on Instagram or something, and I was like,
Probably.
oh shit. Going back to what we were talking about, there's just so much happening all the time as far as like media goes. There's so much to consume, like there's just too much. We can't possibly consume it all.
I watched it in Orlando.
Yeah.
We watched it as like a friend group or whatever. And
yeah.
I love Pedro Pascal. I love Nicolas Cage. Honestly, recommend it. It is a very fun, enjoyable, silly. It's stupid, but it's not so stupid that it's like bad. It's like bad good. It's just
all right.
It's just stupid, but like it's because it's like it's a stupid movie. Like it's a stupid plot. It's actor Nicolas Cage playing a fictionalized version of himself to go hang out with a drug kingpin. Like
I love
it's hilariously dumb, but like the moments they have together, because the main plot is that Pedro Pascal's character is just obsessed with Nicolas Cage, and there's so many points in this movie where they just break out and start acting at each other as their characters, though, and it's just so good, man.
That's great.
It's such an enjoyable time. So,
I do need to watch that. Oh, I've got one more thing for you. I've come up with the movie that you and I need to like get high and watch this season.
Oh, but it's my turn to pick. But go ahead.
No.
Okay. All right.
I know the movie that we need to watch. It's another fever dream of a movie. Okay. And it is the absolute like tour de force character acting moment of John Leguizamo's career. It is the early 2000s classic, The Pest.
Okay, I haven't seen that one. I'm down.
Yes. I'm so pumped. Something happened the other day. Someone said something and it made me think of one of the many jokes from that movie that my brothers and I would repeat to each other ad nauseum as kids. And I was like, oh my God, that movie is like it's a farce and a masterpiece, and it is just like, it doesn't slow down. It's a comedy through and through. It is ridiculous through and through, and it just does not stop. Like, it's almost like someone took a bunch of ideas for skits that John Leguizamo could be in, and then was like, here, do all of these, and some of them are going to be racially not okay. Enjoy. And, like, it's so, like, dude, I cannot even begin. Excited. Like, I feel like if this movie like ever went like if it ever surged in popularity once more, like came back, like within a week, you'd see John Leguizamo going like, "I'm really sorry for all the things that I portrayed in the past. We didn't know." Like we have to watch it. Like that's it. And it's because I thought of it. I was like, "Oh my god, I need to watch this with Odie." Yes. Okay. Good.
I'm down.
Good. I'm glad.
Not gonna fight it.
Perfect. I'll let you get back to work, Odie.
Yes, you get back to work.
You know what? I want Odie from the future at the tail end of their journey with Dee Snider and Anthony Mackie.
And the Flat Earthers that I've collected at each airport. I've collected them.
Yep.
Obviously.
And some Flat Earthers to close out the podcast for us. So let's go back to them one more time.
Okay, so we have completed all the flights. We're done. And we ended with a grand total, I think it was either 4 or 5 delays, which 2 of those were over an hour where we were already on the plane, sitting on the tarmac, just waiting because it was maintenance issues. And then we also got a cancellation, which was super fun. So overall, the trip was really fun and exciting. I am exhausted. I'm dead to the world. I'm going to need like at least a day to recover. But that's just because of lack of sleep more than anything. Because, I mean, realistically, I just slept the last 2 nights on planes. But overall, it was a very interesting experience that I really, really enjoyed. It was one that, I'm very excited for this video. And 2, I'm really excited for what might happen as a follow-up to this video with K to the Arvin being with me, which is amazing. It'd be a lot of fun. I'm a little delusional, and I met some really cool people. I talked to a lot of people on my flights. And I met somebody that like raises cats, like rescues outdoor cats and like nurses them back to health. I met somebody who behind me was talking about how when you get to heaven, you can get a coupon for just being a good person, is what she was saying. She also was the same person on one of my flights that was basically shouting to the whole plane. I don't know if she meant to shout. She was drinking. That her marriage was over and she didn't care and she was just going to stay on this plane until it ran out of fuel, and that she didn't have mental health. She was full fucking mental, baby. And you know what? Respect for her for just not caring, that she told the entire plane all of this. So overall, what an incredible experience. A great opportunity for me to see airports. It was a great airport tour. And I'm happy. And I don't know what else to say here, Kevin. Maybe add some funny sound effects or something. But overall, thanks for listening to the podcast. And hope you watch this video. And good night, Seattle.
All right, perfect. Yeah, you can stop recording.
That's it, though, right? I mean, that's it.